All right, sounds great.
Well, thank you, Vidya, for coming. Many of you know Vidya. She is Paul Chek's left hand, and she is also a clinical psychologist. And she's joining us on the Veritas Holistic Health and Fitness interview series. And this is a series that I've decided to do to help introduce some of the people that have helped me in my life through different aspects of healing and different modalities of wellness and just general life stuff. So everyone that's on here is someone that I respect and admire, and I appreciate them giving up their time. So thank you, Vidya, for coming here. Any other kudos? You what else do you do? You feminine goddess, everything, you know?
I do shamanism. I've been working I've been studying shamanism since 1986 and just completed a 7-week course on embodied shamanism, which is all about helping people stay in their bodies and not disassociate. And as a psychologist yourself, you know how easy it is when people have any kind of trauma or they're uncomfortable or shame spirals, they devolve into a dissociative space. And so I really loved my latest course because it was all about using the shamanic techniques similar to what I use, but also very much aligned with my divine purpose to help others also stay embodied. So that's another thing that I do along with my clinical practice.
Awesome. It was that sounds really interesting, and I agree. I think that's one of the biggest things we're starting to see is they're either going towards the real healthy route or they're going to a really numbing out, disassociative route with drugs and alcohol or television or sex or even working out and taking it to a level of avoidance versus sitting with the pain and dealing with it and pushing through. So I think that's
Yeah,
amazing.
and what I would call those kinds of things are distractions. So, social media can be a huge distraction for people. I know that several of the couples that I am working with have issues related to social media where one partner just isn't present, keeps reaching for the phone or, gets distracted. And so I would really encourage the listeners to, when we're speaking today, to examine in their own life what rises up inside them. And as an invitation to look at what's working for them in their life, or if they're overindulging in any area at all. Is this a distraction for me? Am I disassociating from my life? People find very clever ways to disconnect, and I'm really passionate about people helping people reconnect again. First of all, to self and to spirit, but also to others. And that connection with others means that we want to encourage people to look at each other in the eyes, really connect, not just throw off comments off over the shoulder, right, and passing. That's not real connection. That leaves a lot of people feeling isolated, and in particularly women feeling isolated. So women respond really well with eye contact, so do men. And our voices, how we're modulating our voices, if we're speaking really fast, or if it's too soft, or if it's too loud. That also conveys a lot to each person that's listening. And then also gestures, hand gestures. As you well know, working with a variety of people, you can tell a lot by a person, whether they're animated and they speak with their hands, or if they're afraid, they're going to clasp their hands and hold them close to themselves. So, I just find that the whole gamut of human nature, human experience, human engagement is just a very fascinating topic and lends itself well to the work that I do.
Absolutely. What is it about the male or the male psyche, maybe the yang psyche, that doesn't tend to or tends to avoid the eye contact and is not as attracted to it as the female?
with the male psyche is that sometimes face-to-face eye contact is perceived as being threatening. So sometimes if that's the case, then it may be better to do shoulder-to-shoulder communication, sideways. So I might ask couples that are in male-female relationships if they're having communication issues and the man feels really threatened to be able to maintain an eye contact. Maybe there's something in the communication style. I suggest to them that they might do better taking a walk and walking shoulder to shoulder to talk to one another. They can still glance at each other, but it's not quite as threatening. And so that in particular for males. Now, when males are meeting in business meetings, it's completely different, right? They need that eye contact. They want to look at you straight. It's a form of power. But what we're looking at always is this power differential. Is the power equitable, or is it threatening? So that's, one perspective that you might want to think about when people come into your counseling room, or whether you're at a business meeting. Because in counseling, there's a whole different set of threats going on. Oftentimes, the woman is dragging the man there.
Kicking and screaming, eh?
Kicking and screaming, and we know what happens when he's the problem, right? Well, I take a systems approach. I never see any one person as being the problem. I see that, wait a minute, there's a breakdown. It takes two to tangle. There's a systems. There's something going on in the system here. We can upgrade and upskill, but we also need to educate too and look deeper at what are the symptoms that they're presenting with and seeing what's really going on, as opposed to business. In business, we want to sell our service, we want to sell our product or our widget or this or that. And if somebody is wandering around in their eyes and not making eye contact, right away we kind of dismiss that person. Absolutely. Right? Not interested, not present, but then we move on.
Right.
But in interpersonal relationships, it's way different. And women typically are, in general, selves in relations. So they identify themselves through their relationships. Right. And you'll hear it again and again and again in the women's narrative. How are you doing? Right away they talk about the relationships. Men, you ask them how they're doing, they're not talking about the relationships. They're talking about how well of an earner they are, or how productive they are, or how well business is going. Rarely are they talking about their relationships, and they feel very uncomfortable if they're pinned.
And I can relate.
Yes.
So how does that change with same-sex couples, whether they're lesbian or they're homosexual?
And that's a great question, because what you're going to see that gender is internalized. It's
right.
not just an external. You have a female body, so you're female gender. No, I see that with many of my gay and lesbian couples that I work with, is that there's somebody that is perceived as the husband or the wife, no matter what. And you can have two very soft yin individuals, but they'll still identify themselves as, I'm the wife and this one's is the husband. Same with the females. So, when we're looking at yin and yang characteristics related to what we've learned through Czech holistic lifestyle coaching, we're looking at it not so much in the terms of gender or right. just yang or yin expression.
Absolutely. I'm very yin minded as a male, but
yes.
So I have to work to balance, and I find that some of my other friends are more yang-minded males, maybe, and they need to work on the yin a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. So male or female, gay, lesbian, transgender, it really doesn't matter when we're doing holistic lifestyle coaching. I'm really focusing on what's going on in your life what makes you happy, what makes you upset and sad, how's your diet contributing to this, how much rest are you getting? If you're not getting enough rest, that's going to upset the delicate balance, but also how much movement. And so many people, as you well know, they don't have enough movement in their life.
Absolutely.
And that will contribute to a downward spiral and a sense of being kind of stuck.
Absolutely.
And stuckness is very yin.
Stuckness is very yin. It's interesting because I recently started martial arts sword fighting to balance the yang side, and it's been quite empowering in a lot of ways, and very interesting because the strategy is so applicable to life that I find it, I probably take a more yin approach to it. I'm like, oh, this is so fascinating. It's exactly like this aspect of this area of life or that aspect. And that's been, one of the advices that I give to my clients is if they're very yang, I'll have them do more of a yin activity. If they're yin, I'll have them do more of a yang activity to try to balance it. Is there any other things that you might suggest?
Well, first of all, those are great suggestions. We want to get people moving, and any movement that they'll do in a positive way is will have a great result for them. Okay, yeah, if we're going to talk about movement strategies, I find that for women, just doing Tai Chi, ruler, moving in the frontal and backward planes, this kind of forward, backward, is uncomfortable for them. But if I move them into a sagittal plane movement like Zen Swing, which James just published on the Czech blog, Paul's article and his video on the Zen Swing, I find that women find that much more easier for them to do. And as a work-in activity, it's fabulous for harmonizing the second chakra and beginning to harmonize the rhythms. Right. So with movement, this is what's so unique about the Czech program is that we customize any kind of exercise that we do for the individual. So with sword, powerful, because you still have to be completely connected to the center of your own being. And this, you have multiple movements. Mm-hmm. All over. So it can be up, down, right, sideways. So how powerful to utilize an ancient system such as sword work to create more yang and yin balance within yourself.
Absolutely.
But there's other things. We can use breathing. We can use, Paul Chek talks about a work-in is any work-in where when you're breathing, or moving, you can still carry on a conversation.
Right.
Right. So a lot of people forget that. And we can tell right away who's out of shape if you just take them for a quick walk.
Exactly.
And they're huffing and they're puffing. You just, it's like a little too quick of movements. It's already raising too much of the cortisol in them and the adrenaline in them, and they can't catch up to their breath. So we just got to slow it down.
Absolutely.
That's one way, but also our thinking, our thinking patterns. So if we're doing a lot, we're carrying a lot, our minds are going, and then you see those kinds of individuals, they don't know how to let down. So we need to teach them how to pause throughout their day, take a nice deep breath, become present. Absolutely. In their body. Where are they? Look around. Hopefully they can look outside and connect with nature, but if they can't, just stop, close your eyes, turn your gaze inward, check in with oneself. What am I sensing? What am I feeling? Oh, wow, listen to those thoughts. They're driving this kind of internal engine that's just so revved up. Right? And then what am I intuiting? So sensing, feeling, thinking, and intuiting. So we want to help our clients also become aware that way or mindful of that, and that will empower them with being able to make better choices for themselves. Oh yeah, there I am again. I'm balling up my fists again, and I've got this knot in my stomach. Oh, it's that thought, that racing thought, right? That tends to keep going to the future. So the anxiety drives that future. But when we can pause, connect with the breath, connect with ourselves, all of a sudden we come back in and we realize, oh, the future isn't really so important as the present moment.
Correct.
So that's another way. Diet, of course, will always create good balance. We get our energy from our food, and understanding what our individualized needs are extremely important when we're working with our clients, and taking good care of ourselves.
Absolutely.
I know that a lot of people reach for their comfort foods or their sugars or their caffeines or things like that instead of, what are the foods that are going to best support me? Well, those are going to be green foods. They're going to be more yin, right, for you. They're not going to be yang foods. They're going to be nurturing foods. They're going to help you with your water. They're going to help you kind of brighten your gut and your organs and your glands so that you have more energy and that you do sleep better.
Exactly.
I'm a person who entrains my circadian rhythms to the day. So I'm up before dawn, and I'm not very fun at night because I go to bed early. A lot of people, dating has been a problem because a lot of people, and I'm like, I'm going to bed now.
It's 9:30. I'm prepping.
Well, I actually go to bed earlier.
Oh, really?
I'm pretty much asleep between 8:30 and 9 because I'm up at 4:30 in the morning. I have an early morning yoga practice.
Nice.
And then as my week progresses, then I do some functional training. But primarily it's yoga for me early morning. So that I feel good to start my day in the office at 7 a.m. I just feel great.
That's awesome.
I feel like I've taken care of myself, done some deep breathing. I'm ready to have my green drinks. I'm ready to just give my very best.
Absolutely.
For the day.
Yeah. Well, you got me into the Purium, and that was one of the things that totally altered my life because it's got the bitter greens, it's got the healing mushrooms, some of the fruits, and things that were just harder for me to get in as an extreme protein type. I definitely didn't gravitate towards that, and it's been a beautiful addition because it was so easy to introduce it, and it made such a huge impact on my mood, like you're talking about, and energy levels, and it changed my sleep cycles. I was definitely, I definitely get to bed much earlier, up much earlier. So those, I can't recommend that enough. You were spot on with that,
Yeah, I find it's an incredible tool and a great addition to your daily nutritional intake. And, I've met some really amazing people who have turned around their diabetes too by adding that in and knowing that even if they're very busy, they can still nourish themselves. And once we have that experience of vitality, it's been my personal experience that I'll protect it.
Absolutely.
Right. It's like, oh yeah, I've loaded too much on this. You start to get lethargic. The skin shows it. The mind gets confused. We're just not at the top of our A game. And I'm so committed to being at the top of my A game and helping others be at the top of their A game too, that this is one of the reasons why I just love Purium. And then, I've been listening to this audio recording that Paul talked about recently in some of his recent blogs called Sex at Dawn. And it's very interesting because from their perspective, the researchers who pulled out all this research all over the world, modern humans, ever since we started doing agriculture, actually have not had the glowing health that we have been told that they had, like the big invention of being able to grow corn and settle into communities. Well, that also created limitations in food sources, as opposed to, if you look at indigenous populations around the world that are still living kind of a forager lifestyle, meaning that they don't grow things, they go from area to area in their forests and this and that. They're eating such a huge variety of foods. And this is really key to health. And for those people that I do health coaching with, I really encourage them to have a more diverse food supply.
Absolutely.
And more variety, which helps when you rotate your foods.
Absolutely.
And that's a really big concept for a lot of people who, tend to eat maybe 10 foods, the same foods,
all the time,
day after day, day after day, and they wonder why they're tired. They're just run down, why they just keep having these addictive food habits. And with Purium, we can interrupt that. Absolutely. As a tool, those negative eating patterns, and begin to build in a nutritional base with whole food eating. They feel so good coming off it that they're just like, okay, I'm fully invested in eating a whole food diet that is diverse and has a lot of variety. So whether you're, a protein type, or you're mixed type, or carbohydrate type, which, I find that everybody's pretty mixed, actually. And the way that I have my clients think about food is, think of it as lots of veggies, specifically lots of raw veggies, and then you add your protein that's going to fit in the palm of your hand to your meal.
Right.
And they go, wow, but I can't digest carbohydrates and vegetables. And I said, guaranteed you will. You will be able to. I'm working with a diabetic right now who, sadly, is an alcoholic as well. Now, this is a person who doesn't snack, doesn't gravitate towards sweets. So he's not snacking, not gravitating towards sweets, but he's just not eating at the proper times of the day. So as Paul says, we are when we eat as well. So getting regular nutrition in, well, since I've been working with him in 1 week, he reported to me yesterday, he's like, wow, I'm kind of having a hard time. I'm finding that I'm getting hungry. I'm like,
whoops.
Great, this means that your digestive system is starting to turn on.
Exactly.
This is awesome.
Very awesome.
So suppressed, he had no hunger at all. And, in the evening, we'd come around, he didn't have hunger, so he'd be drinking instead at night, instead of eating, and then maybe eating one big carbo meal later at night. And I'm just like, whoa, okay, let's start working with that. But already in a week, great results.
That's amazing. Yeah, I was reading I think it was in an article that was written, there were 1,735 varieties of fruits and vegetables in the grocery store, like 70 years ago, and now there's like 45 varieties.
Yeah, this is why I want to encourage people to look locally. What is being grown locally? And if there's not enough variety locally, you can get it through Purium products, or you can get a variety through other ways. And now we have so many great conscious and aware companies out there that are providing grass-fed and organic meat sources from, like, I make rabbit, ostrich, kangaroo.
Oh, wow, how does that taste? I've never tried kangaroo.
Oh, it's a mild meat. It's really great. You can buy it ground, and I make patties, and I chop up mushrooms and onions and garlic with it, and I fry it, pan fry it in coconut oil, and it's just like delicious.
Excellent.
Yeah,
it's
it really great. So there's lots of varieties out there. Some people are afraid, it's going to taste weird, but when we have clients come to Paul's office and I cook for them, they're like, oh my God, this is so good. What is it? When I tell them, they go, really? I wouldn't have eaten it.
Exactly.
had I known, but now that you've told me, right? So
That's
we
awesome.
just think variety with food, and we
Absolutely.
will have great vitality and eating at regular times. So everything we do as human beings can be done through regulation, right? So if we have a morning practice, if we have an evening practice, if we eat our meals at regular times or take our Purium at a regular time, right? The body begins to expect the nutrition coming in
Absolutely.
and crave it,
Body
right?
will tell you if you listen, won't it?
That's for sure.
So that's awesome. No, I think those are really great ideas for clients to think about. And I mean, who would have thought to eat kangaroos? So that's a good, that's a great addition to your palate. I know one of the things that you're really into is the divine feminine, and I've seen you've been doing a lot of workshops, and I wanted to tap into that a little more. Are you familiar with Mark Passio's work?
No,
With the
I'm
divine.
not, but I would be interested to know about it
So
if you're picking up.
yeah, so his I guess premise is the balance between the divine male and the divine female is part of the awakening, and that the divine feminine is very anti-violence, and the divine masculine is very pro self-defense to support life, this yin and yang balance, and that's been a fascinating study that I've recently gotten into, and understanding that you know as long as the natural laws of the universe, not perpetuating violence but being free and allowing others to be free, is a gift of the feminine side, and the masculine side is being able to protect and defend yourself if necessary, but not violently. So I don't know if you have any ideas. What do you think about that? Have you
Well,
given you enough time to process
I'm
that?
not familiar with his particular uh, philosophy or his approach to divine feminine and divine masculine. Sounds intriguing. Where I'm mostly interested is in how we can create better partnerships, period.
That's a
Right?
great idea, yeah.
Period. And understanding both masculine strengths and feminine strengths, and also understanding what are our weaknesses. So, because women are selves in relation, and they like to talk about relationships, and men tend to be, let's go to David Dieta's model. Are you familiar with that model?
I am not, but tell me about
Okay,
it.
so he talks about the divine masculine and the divine feminine as well. And he's saying, the divine masculine is more vertical. He's single-minded, of course. He's able to focus more. Multitasking really isn't into his vocabulary so much. But then with women, because women tend to multitask themselves in a relationship, they do better working alongside other women. And so when we can raise understanding and awareness of what really supports women and what really supports men, then we can bring them together and actually support conscious co-creative partnerships. And in these partnerships, yes, men naturally love to protect, right? And they naturally love to provide, right? As long as there's not commands or demands going on from the female side. But on the female side, they want the protection. They want to be provided for, not in a patronizing way, but in a supportive way of, like, I really get what your needs are, right? And if she needs to be with her girlfriends and spend some time, in her women's groups, and she's with the kids and this and that, that's great. He needs to also see that she will flourish in that, but as an adult, she's going to need to take a break from the group activities and come back into the partnership, because that one-on-one time with her man or her mate or her beloved, whether she's gay or not, because I see this in gendered, whether it's internalized or externalized, whether it's male female, female female, or male male, is that understanding those needs of the masculine. then she can better support him in coming forward to participate with her. For instance, you're in a relationship, right?
Yes.
Right. And when you get home, is your girl there? Is your woman there waiting for you?
Usually, sometimes it flips. It depends on our schedules. We're pretty busy, but yeah, sometimes she is.
And have you ever had the experience where you walk through the door and she's right there and she's like going to tell you everything that's happened in her day and you haven't even like fully got through the door yet?
Exactly. Yeah. It's getting texted to me on the way home.
Okay. So oftentimes men resent that.
Yeah.
Because, they need a little bit of time separating their work world from their home life. Their home is their sanctuary, right?
Yes.
They're working hard to provide this sanctuary, to protect it. And they walk home and they come in through the door and all of a sudden they're blasted with all this information. And it's like, whoa, I just need a moment. And then if you say, I just need a moment, and she'll follow you, right, it starts to build resentment. So what's really important for the woman to understand is that for the male psyche, the male needs this transition time in order to come back into himself and switch. Because, see, women don't switch. Because they're selves in relation. They just see you as this other relation coming home, and she's going to treat you like she treats her girlfriends.
Right.
Right? As women, we can talk about any topic, any subject, multi-layered, we can switch on a dime, come back to it, and we can track the conversation, not men. Men are like, whoa, this is way over the top. I can't follow this. Can you just get to the point, please?
Exactly.
Right, so helping others be able to understand that men need this transition time. So whether you're a female that has more yang qualities that are coming home, I need to come into myself. I need to feel who I am again in this relationship, in this intimate partnership. I just need 20 minutes to half an hour. When we can do that, the man will come back and he'll be refreshed. He'll be like, okay, honey, I'm all ears. You have all of me. I can be present with you.
Absolutely.
Same for the females that are in lesbian relationships, and same for the men that are in gay relationships. So having that transition time is key. So that's just an example of difference. But if we can recognize difference, not seeing it as something bad, but seeing it as something that is complementary to our natures, then we start to lower the threshold for resentment. Right? Because the misperception of the woman is, you're not interested. I have something important to tell you. Of course you do. But you got to give him a few moments to himself to just kind of decompress from one environment to this environment. And I would invite you to also share that with your girlfriend, because then you both can show up and co-create the kind of partnership that feels really supported.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really, and honor those differences. Exactly. So we don't want a homogeny.
Right. It's a complementary style of relationship. And that, I guess that kind of leads me to another good question, in the sense of creating this within balance versus this shared balance, in the sense that, throughout the years, I've looked at multiple systems of creating the yin-yang balance inside of yourself, and then complementing the yin and the yang through relationship.
Yeah.
And I found it fascinating because, you'll find that the more yin someone is, typically the more yang their partner is, and vice versa, or their friends are, or some key relationship. And there's an aspect of creating the balance and the deficits within yourself, and developing them, and this concept of being able to enjoy it in another person and allow that to be complementary. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely, I completely agree with you. My son is very yin. One of my sons is very yin, and he's very soft, but he works at a stressful job. And when he comes home, the last thing he wants to do is engage. He just wants to disengage, right?
Right.
And if I say, well, how's your girlfriend doing? Oh, she's just Miss Stress Bucket, right? She comes right in, she breezes right in and wants to talk about all the stressors of the day, right? And so you're absolutely right. We want to learn to self-manage ourselves by understanding what our own personal needs are and understanding what our baseline nature is. Maybe more on the yang side, maybe more on the yin side. And so what do I need, right? Then we step into the we relationship, and then we have to also honor that the partner often is complementary to our nature, which is a great working relationship.
Right,
to
absolutely.
have that there. But we also then need to also understand that the relationship bot has its own needs. And this is something that is often what? The relationship? But I'm in the relationship. No, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the relationship has its own needs. So we have what's going on with us, what's rising up, how yin, how yang, how stressed we are, all of the foundational factors that can bring the very best of us into the we relationship. Understanding our partner's needs, their weaknesses, their strengths. How can we show up to be good partners? And then understanding the relational needs as well. So, and then there's the all relationship, and a lot of people make sacrifices that don't really honor their we relationships or their I relationships, thinking that, if I sacrifice everything to the all, somehow I'll magically get elevated and feel better. No, you won't. You won't feel better. So, yeah, your thought is right on, Scott. We have to take responsibility and be accountable for what is rising up inside ourselves. And even if we don't love what's rising up inside ourselves, wow, I notice I'm feeling a little resentful that he's not present with me, right? We need to look at that. This is rising up. What were my expectations?
Right.
Right? Can I love this part of me that is rising up that's uncomfortable? Can I sit in my own uncomfortableness so that I can learn from it, so that I can honor what it's really speaking to me?
Right.
Recently, in my embodied shamanism course, there was a great exercise there, and he asked us to really look at what is the number one complaint that we give voice to. Oftentimes with women, they internalize it, but men might speak it out loud.
Right.
No matter whether you're speaking it out loud or, internalizing it, we want to begin to recognize what that complaint is. What is that number one complaint? So for me, my number one complaint was, I'm so busy, I just need me time. I'm so busy, I just need me time. Well, that wasn't very empowering, right? I still was kind of scrambling to get me time. But as I sat with that complaint, I realized, of course I'm busy. I'm doing my divine purpose. Okay, well, how could I reframe this complaint into a more empowering statement for myself? And the more empowering statement for myself that I came up for myself was, I live a very full life that in complete alignment with my divine purpose.
I like it.
I do too. And when I speak it out loud, then I give voice to something bigger than myself, but honoring where I am.
Absolutely. And in that, you're not anxious about it, and you can look to find solutions and creative ways to meet the need and the complaint. No longer a complaint.
Right. It's no longer a complaint, but it was a complaint because I wasn't willing to look at it that way.
Right.
Right. I wasn't willing to look at it that way. So now, if we can look at what is rising up, is this really truly a complaint? And that's what I saw for myself. I'm like, wow, I'm not complaining so much about other people. It's all about me. What is it that I'm not listening to inside myself that thinks that it has to change it?
Right.
And instead, by honoring that and reframing it, I feel so much more empowered than to say no instead of yes.
Right.
Right.
Do you think that some of that is from being just the feminine, in the sense that females, I've noticed, tend to give of themselves a lot, and then at the end of the day, there's nothing left.
There's nothing left, right? And so that's so true, because we're selves in relation and we care deeply about all of our relations. And we are socialized and enculturized to believe that, well, if I support the family and give up myself, they will know that I'm making these sacrifices and therefore they will love me.
Exactly.
It's usually the narrative, right?
Right.
But, it's the unexamined expectation. It's the resentment that begins to drill down into a negative narrative. So we want to pay attention to the narrative. What is the story, so that we can help our clients also change their story by changing their internal awareness and knowing that they do have choice and they can be inspired and empowered through their choices. And, I'm just grateful that I'm a person that is continually learning and growing and can pass on this information to other people and help them and support them to being better who they want to be and who they are.
Absolutely. And I know you've helped a ton of people, because I know a lot of my clients have even jumped in and taken PPS and done it themselves, and they've, thought it was fantastic. And I know some of them, even myself, have had private sessions with you. And, one of the other things I really love is the stone balancing that you do, and all the necklaces and the energy healing. And those have been an integral part of my healing. And I don't know, I think we've known each other for 6 or 7 years. So it's been a while.
2008, I think.
2008, maybe 2007. And it's funny, I have this. This was the very first necklace that you...
so beautiful.
Made me, yeah. Oh, it's my favorite. I kind of energetically outgrew it, in a sense that I can't wear it all the time. It was a little heavy, but it's my favorite, and I've kept it around. And then I have some of the other work, and I don't know how many people really know that you do this, and it's one of the things that I think
That's a lovely one, too. Oh, my God, I forgot all of... those were the ones I didn't photograph in the beginning, yeah.
Exactly, and I did a blog post about them a while back, but that blog got taken down. The platform just got taken down, and they didn't save it. So these were some of the most, beautiful things that you made. This one is one of my favorites, too. I think this one's pretty good for me now as well. I don't know if you can see it really well on this. But, do you want to speak a little bit on this and what this process is like and how you do it? Because I think it's
that's lovely, beautiful.
It's a very unique process, and it's been a very interesting healing process, because I was trying to do it on my own and testing it out, and I was really not hitting the nail on the head, and I can tell the difference when I wear one of your pieces versus one I either tried to overdo and it was too heavy energetically or too light energetically and all that. And, Paul looked at me one day, he's like, "Where did you get that necklace?" He's like, "What happened to you?" And I was like, I went and I tried to feel it in it. I thought it was right. And he's like, that's way too heavy for you. And it was. And I was like, wow, I'm going to test it out. And man, sure enough, by the end of the day, I was exhausted. And I was like, wow, okay. He's like, yeah, you got to do something different. So I think that's an interesting thing. I think a lot of people would love to hear about it.
Yeah. Well, I think that what's so beautiful about the mineral kingdom, meaning the stones and minerals that I work with to create healing necklaces, is that there's a vibrational quality to each of the stones. So when somebody comes to me, I ask them 4 questions. What gives you joy? What do you consider your strengths? What do you consider your weaknesses? And lastly, what's your dream? What's your dream?
Right.
And a lot of people have superficial dreams, or they might not know, or maybe they have a nightmare that they want to resolve, and whatever it is. So once I get the answers back to that, I can kind of get this picture. I also have them send me a photo of themselves if I have never seen them, because I like to read their energy as well. And I sit with that, and I sit with their answers, and I feel into that, and I use my body to feel into what does this person need that will help them come into balance with themselves. And as I sit with it, it's so amazing, because my intuition starts kicking up, and I start seeing the necklace kind of come into itself with a variety of stones. And so then in my process, I have a whole, workshop area where I have a nice variety of stones and pendants and things like that. And I go and I collect the stones that my intuition is guiding me with, and I'll sit and I'll start designing it and working with it until I have the finished piece. I recently did a necklace for a man who lives in the UK, because he's really into shamanism. He's really into bear is his power animal, and I was like, I want to get something authentically bear for him and create something. And he's very passionate, but he's very grounded, and he uses the drum, right? So I didn't have to make it too heavy, but I also wanted to give it enough energy and vitality, because he was really energizing that. So I was sitting with it, and I was looking for the right pendant, because he's a big man, and I needed something that was going to stand out for him on his chest, because he wants to use it during his shamanic ceremonies and things like that. So I sat with it, couldn't find the right pendant. And then on Facebook, I saw this advertisement by Energy Artist, and she had this pendant of the bear. And I went, oh, wow, that is so cool. So I ordered it. It came. I thought it would be a little bit heavier, but she's not making it with silver. And I like to use pure silver when I'm making my necklaces. But it didn't have pure silver, but the image was so powerful. So I built the necklace around that, and he absolutely flipped for it. He absolutely loves it. Loves
I've
it. And
seen
here's a
pictures
person
of
like
it.
you who has contracted me for many years to create these powerful necklaces for himself, and he started to wear it, and he's just like, oh my gosh, I feel so supported. So I used some rudraksha, and I used coral, because coral is really rooted to the earth, but it's vibrant in color, right? And I also used some other stones for him, and very empowering for him. And I saw too how his energy field had changed from the very first piece that I had made for him to now. And then I had another guy contact me just around the same time, and he's like, oh, you know what, I think cougar is my power animal. I want you to make me a cougar necklace. So I did. It's amazing. And with him, I found a site where I could order bear claws and cougar claws and things like that. So I got another bear claw for my other client in case he wants another necklace or some other, power necklace. But I also got the cougar claw, and I used some really beautiful Tibetan amber with it and some turquoise that would empower him, because cougar's all about balanced leadership.
Yeah.
Right? Cougar is here to teach us about the balance of power. And so in speaking power in a palatable way, which turquoise really, really supports, because it works both with the heart and the throat chakra.
Right.
So I created this gorgeous necklace for him as well. And then, other people, other women, they like, I don't care what you make me, just make me something,
exactly.
Right? I've got a group of women that regularly like, I'm ready for a new necklace, and so I'll create something,
The difference between the male and the female, right?
Yeah. So it's a really nice way for me personally to get away from just talk therapy or coaching or business or paper or computers, and work with the vibration that's going to best support that person. And it's amazing. It really is. I mean, Paul contracts with me. Every year. Oh, can you make something for Angie? Can you make something for Penny? Can you make something,
Exactly.
Oh, that's perfect for them.
Yeah, it's great.
And then when I see them wear it, I'm like, oh, wow, that really is beautiful and really works for who that person is.
Balancing their energies.
For whatever they're needing, yeah.
So some practical advice. You brought up the power animals, and I think that, some of the audience might think that's really interesting. Some might not, but tell me, what would be practical ways, if you didn't know your power animal, to find your power animal or guide someone towards that and empower them to be able to understand that a little better?
Well, there's a couple different ways. Like, if you look back into your childhood, you might have been fascinated with a particular animal or animal group, right? So felines, big cats, tigers, lions, cougars, and those kind of jaguars, pretty powerful, right? If you've always been attracted to those kind of animals, then start there, right?
Right.
That's where you can start. Oftentimes our power animals will come up in our dreams as well, right? In shamanism, we call forth our power animals as guides, typically to walk with us or take us more into the underworld. So in shamanism, we're looking at underworld, middle world, which is like our human experience, in the upper worlds, which are more the, air, angelic realm, more ethereal realm.
Right.
And so, we can ask for an animal to come to us and to show us, either in our dreams or meditation, if we have clear intent. And then other times we just don't know, we just don't know, right? And it's okay. We don't have to know. If you're fascinated, Paul has me use a book on animal astrology. So this is a Native American system based on the time of year that you're born and the month. Then you have an animal assigned to you, and it's assigned also with an element. And so he likes to use that book, so he's asking me quite frequently, oh, can you check this person's, birth date, because that's one of the things that are on our forms is the birth date, and can you go to this book and print everything out? So I did that yesterday for one of his clients who happens to be an owl, born late November.
Gotcha.
And so fire is this person's element, but he's also in the earth clan. So, which is really, really, really interesting. And so for this person, it's about pride, but the out of balance pride also can be there. And,
Absolutely.
And then we see the positive aspects. So all animals come with their positive and their negative, their yin and the yang also. So whether the animal shows up as female or male is also very significant.
Interesting.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I also had some very significant animals show up for me in my embodied shamanism course that I did recently, and one was deer. And deer, I was just like, but I kept hearing, lift your eyes, and as I lifted my eyes, all of a sudden I could feel like antlers coming out. We were in a journey, and I was using my rattles, and all of a sudden I lifted my eyes, my whole body changed, and I started prancing like on these hooves, and I was deep in the journey, and I went, oh my God, this is the first time that deer actually came, but deer came and embodied me. And deer is all about the female as well.
Right.
And being gentle with oneself, but being super alert to one's environment.
Yeah.
They're kind of shy creatures, so it's very interesting. So we see that certain animals kind of group together. I learned that deer and cougar and rabbit, they all tend to congregate together in the same environment. Right. So wherever deer is, you will know that there's rabbit.
Yeah.
It's very interesting, and or snake or possum. Just kangaroo showed up for me, and
Wow.
I was like, on another journey where I was rattling and dancing again, and all of a sudden I could feel the power in the hind legs. And kangaroos don't jump backwards; they're always going forward, which is really interesting. So the strength of that animal to come forward and to move forward, but it's also related to the feminine because of their nurturing qualities and being able to carry their young.
Absolutely. Lots of symbolism.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting, but I really encourage people just explore. If you don't know, you can get out books, read some of the characteristics of animals, and in Hawaiian spirituality, they talk about the lower and the middle and the upper worlds, and they say your animal, you're going to see the animal in the way that person moves.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Or their tendency to want to be with a herd, right? With a group of people, they're safe in a group, or whether they're solitary creatures where they're kind of introverted. So if they're introverted, most likely they're more of a solitary type animal as opposed to, and I laughed when I first discovered all of this, because I'm like, oh, that person's a giraffe, and that person's a this, and that person's a lion, and that,
Right.
And then, like, I have an older friend, he's 80 years old, he is known as a lion, not a tiger. He's got lion and everything.
You there? You're cutting out a little bit. I had a little internet malfunction, I think.
Yeah, all of a sudden it was like, whoop, and I was like, oh no, did the battery conk out?
I think what happened was the router reset itself and flipped out maybe too many things on it. Sorry. So you were in the middle. He was a lion.
Yeah, so he's known ever since he was a little child that the lion was his power animal. Is he shamanic in nature? Absolutely not. He's a very traditional Jewish man. No, but he, it's like he's the lion, and he lives with this brave and courageous heart, and he's a great athlete, and so we can look at our preferences in the way that we inhabit our lives to learn more about our animal nature and begin to explore that more fully. So, for instance, one of our teachers for the Czech Institute, one of his power animals is a snail.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's not a fast-moving guy. He's slow. He's methodical. He's present, right? And so the snail is, an animal that he has identified for himself that is very much the power animal. He's not the rabbit.
Interesting.
He's not the hare. He's the snail. And he honors that in himself, and he refers to himself in that way. So not negative connotations, but in very positive connotation.
Everything has a purpose, even the snail, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's awesome. That's a great analogy to that, because I think some people want, they're like, how can a lizard or a snail or a fly be a power animal? Or
right? So, here's another example. One of our teachers came, we just finished this faculty meeting. One of our teachers came from Australia, and we went and did a Native American ceremony the first night that she came down with some friends of mine up in Irvine. And then on the way home, she's like, Vidya, what's the significance of rabbit? And I'm like, I don't know. We'll have to look that up. And I said, why do you ask? She goes, I keep having dreams of rabbit. And I'm like, oh, this is very interesting, right? And she goes, I got to my new place, our bed and breakfast place that she was renting for the week. She goes, the owner has a rabbit there. I'm like, wow, okay, so rabbit's starting to come up. We were driving back to my house later that night, and a rabbit ran across the road right in front of my house. And I'm like, oh my God, I've never seen a rabbit at my house before. And she's like, oh my God, that rabbit. And all of a sudden she was seeing rabbit everywhere. And so she went home to look up rabbit, because obviously rabbit was coming up into her awareness.
Absolutely.
And she had the awareness to ask, what is the meaning for me in this?
Right.
So we look for those synchronicities. Sometimes it's the synchronicities of something that rises up in our own awareness, crosses our path, shows up again and again, and is trying to get her attention. And for her, it was very powerful, because when she looked up rabbit, she realized that rabbit was teaching her how to approach problems in a different way, how to jump over these seemingly insurmountable problems.
Interesting. Very,
very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. And she's continuing her own process of getting to know rabbit better. And my suggestion was, well, just ask rabbit to come and inhabit you, embody you, so you can look through the eyes of the rabbit and see those solutions, rather than trying to figure it out with mind.
Absolutely. No, that's a great idea, and I think that's great advice. And those are all good ways to begin to start that journey. And I don't know that there's a wrong answer. You can begin to find it on your own and put it all together.
Absolutely.
And maybe it'll change a little bit here and there.
It does. I think that, some people in my shaman course were saying, oh, no, you're born with this animal, and this animal's with you your entire life. Yeah, your lower nature character might be really connected to that particular animal, but I also saw that in my experience, the animals show up when you are wanting to learn something, or they have a teaching message for you. And this is the gift that I got from Deepak Chopra when I was working with him, was that the universe is conspiring every moment in our success, but we're blind to it. We're ignorant. We don't see it. We don't register it. But if you create the intent to wake up and begin to notice what is going on, starting with myself, sensing, feeling, intuiting, thinking, to what's going on in my environment. Maybe there's an image on that billboard. Maybe there's a sign on the car that just goes by. Maybe somebody randomly speaks about something that answers you, or I was just thinking about that, right? So we have these moments of synchronicity every single day.
Right.
But when we set the intention out, like, I want to notice these things, and we start to notice them, we become inspired and empowered with the messages that are contained therein, and we get to grow and become better people and become greater contributors to our own community through the process.
Absolutely. Attention with intention, right?
Yeah, attention with intention. It's very powerful. It's the formula for manifestation.
Absolutely. Well, you have been such a beautiful guest, and I really appreciate it, and I hope that in the future you would be willing to come back and share even more of your insights and wisdom with us. I think you really spoke to some very powerful things today, and I'm sure that a lot of people are going to get a lot of benefit from them, and I am just very much in your gratitude for spending time with us and teaching us and helping me in the ways you've helped me and helping other listeners. And if they want to get in touch with you, how would they go about doing that?
They can visit my website, akasha4life.com, and they can reach me through my website and my links there, or they can reach me through Facebook. I know many of your listeners are on Facebook, so they can reach me through Facebook. And if they have a burning desire, they can reach me through my email, and I would encourage them to email me, Vidya at akasha4life.com or vidya@paulcheck.com.
Vidya Paulcheck. And Akasha is, we spell that for them?
AKASHA 4 life. Akasha for life.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, and I will be putting this up on the YouTube soon, and I will send you a link and tag in and everything so we can spread the word. And again, I appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you in the future.
Well, thank you, Scott. You know, I really love your questions. They're deep. We covered a lot of areas today in our topic of discussion. But you're a very present, very insightful, and very relatable man. And I really enjoyed our interaction this afternoon. And I know that whoever watches or listens will benefit greatly. Well, and hopefully they will also reach out to you as a man of wisdom.
I hope so, but I appreciate it. It's a great compliment from you, and I thank you as well. So you have a beautiful evening, and I'm sure we'll touch base offline soon.
Yes, we will. Thanks again. You have a wonderful evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.